Peace and blessings to everybody. I'm going to talk about the Jammu and Kashmir struggle. The Kashmiris have been fighting for their freedom for over 73 years, long years now, and now more than ever need our support. I'm going to read Article 5 from the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, and that states, no one shall be subjected to torture or to cruel, inhumane or degrading treatment or punishment. And we all know that that's not been upheld for the people of Kashmir. Many of us believe that the world has turned a blind eye to the atrocities and human rights violations that are taking place there. A brief history into Kashmir. Kashmir was an independent state when Britain ruled South Asia. And at that time of partition, India and Pakistan, the British Viceroy at the time, Lord Mountbatten, agreed that Kashmir would be resolved later. And soon after the independence, both countries went to war, and the case went to the United Nations. The United Nations agreed that the people of Kashmir would be given the right to self-determination. So that was then. 73 years have gone by, it still hasn't taken place. Kashmiris remain the most militarized zone in the world, and recent United Nations report highlight that mass graves, thousands of women and young girls have been raped, men have disappeared, there's lots of killings, young people have disappeared, there's a massive use of pellet guns. And the pellet guns, let me just remind everyone, a pellet gun is basically outlawed to use on animals. And the pellet guns are being used on the people of Kashmir, and there's thousands of young people that have been blinded. Their lives have been taken away by these pellet guns. So you're being shot with hundreds and hundreds of these pellets. There's many more atrocities that I could obviously talk about, and these are all being carried out by the Indian Army, who have impunity to carry out these abuses. They can do what they want, basically, they won't be held to account. Last year, it was an incredible annual conference, 2019, and we had a real debate in regards to Kashmir and committing ourselves to solidarity with the people of Kashmir and to their struggle. There are difficult circumstances going on, and basically I think what we debated at conference was basically the basic right to self-determination, a right that was granted to them over 70 odd years ago, and it is basically giving them the right to free, fair plebiscite so they can make that determination. Over a year now, the Narendra Modi government has revoked Article 370 and 35A from the Constitution, which granted Kashmir its right to autonomy. Basically, what does that mean? It means there's been a complete lockdown. Not a lockdown like what we're feeling. We're feeling depressed at the moment. We're feeling isolated. We're feeling we can't do anything. The lockdown in Kashmir, there is no interaction. There's no internet. There's thousands have been arrested. All the politicians have been arrested. Young men and young boys have vanished. The rapes have increased. And this is happening on the world stage. And what are we doing about it? I mean, basically for me, I use these words in the sense that this is tantamount to ethnic cleansing. And this is the reality. So the complete communication lockdown, like I've said, but it is the comments that I hear from people, it's basically hell on earth. And let me just be clear, this is not a bilateral issue. Every time you talk to our leaders, they talk about this is a bilateral issue. It's an issue between India and Pakistan. It is not. This is a world issue. This is an issue that each and every one of us, the world countries, the leaders of the world need to get together and resolve. Because, I mean, we dealt with it in Northern Ireland and in Africa. It's the world leaders that need to take control, because if 73 long years have gone by and they've had 3 wars since between those countries. And I think you also need to remember that China is a part of this as well, because China has a border with Kashmir. So there's lots of issues going on. And no doubt there are leaders in our world that create destruction and havoc and death, but we are the leaders of peace. And as leaders of peace, we need to raise our voices to seek justice for those that are wronged. And we as Labour Party activists need to take clear actions to raise our voice for the voiceless people of Kashmir. So what should we do? Of course we need to lobby our councillors and MPs. Of course we need to write to the Indian embassy. Of course we need to put motions in and take this back to our CLPs and talk to, invite speakers to speak up about it. But I think one of the biggest issues for me is we need to remember that we belong to one race, the human race, and it is our duty. And as a Labour Party, we are the party of equality, fairness and justice, and we need to be the leaders when it comes to that. I do want to also highlight that when I mention Kashmir, I also want to mention Palestine, because for me, my MP used to be the late Sir Giles Kaufman, and he said to me then, he used to say to me, Yasmin, whenever you mention Kashmir, please remember Palestine. And as comrades have mentioned earlier, Palestine is a similar over 70 odd years an issue, and it's not been resolved. It's not time for debate, it's time for action. And we need to make sure that we are those leaders that will make that change. So the people of Kashmir and other oppressed people of our world need to look towards the Labour Party to be their voice. And after all, we are the party of justice, equality and fairness, and we speak up for the many, not the few. So stand in solidarity with the people of Kashmir. Thank you.